Hi and welcome. The big new feature of Camera Raw 11.3 is the texture slider. Now this is something that I will be using a lot. It rocks. In portrait photography, for example, it will allow us to add much better skin softening. Now in the past, many of us have used negative clarity, which is better than nothing, but it does affect the shadows and the contrast, so many times it's not ideal. The texture slider just affects the details in the image. So on the negative side it gives much better softening, and on the positive side it gives much better detail enhancement. It can be applied as a global adjustment from the basic panel, or a local adjustment in the form of the adjustment brush, the graduated filter, or the radial filter adjustments. Okay, let's dig in and see how it works. And don't forget, if this is your first time with LiveLink training, please visit my website, and if you scoot to the bottom of any page, just give this link a click here to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be really helpful. Thank you very much. Let's get on. Okay, first it might be useful to look at how texture differs from clarity and sharpening, because they all do give very different results. So let's have a look at this image, and let's zoom in to 100% first, 50 and 60, and we're up at 100%, and then I'm going to just hold the space bar down just to reposition that in the middle of the screen. Now let's make sure clarity and texture are both set to 0, which they are. And we're going to move the sharpening slider. So I'm going to go up to the detail panel, and I'm going to move the sharpening slider just over till I think it starts making a difference. And I'm going to over egg the pudding a bit just to show you here that we're now enhancing all this detail. But notice how it affects most the high frequency detail. It's pulling out all these areas here. Now a downside is that obviously at the top here you can see it's pulling out some of the noise that was hidden, that wasn't there before, and it's actually sharpening that. So we might have to add a little bit of luminance noise reduction, and probably a little bit of masking. So if I hold the Alt key down, I can see now with this mask that everywhere that's black is not being sharpened and everywhere that's white is. So I can go to somewhere like that and let go, and we should see that we've got a nice smooth background again, although I probably wouldn't want to sharpen it in practice that much, so I'd probably end up with there. And we can see now that we've got a difference. So if I can go down and I can click this little button at the bottom to show me a before and after, or I can use Control Alt and P as a keyboard shortcut. So that's before and that's after, and you can see that it is going for the high frequency detail. It's enhancing the little tiny bits of detail. Now let's set sharpening back to 0. So we'll set that back, we'll set everything back to 0, and we'll have a look now at clarity. Now I'll move the clarity slider either way, so we'll take it up to positive 100. Oh dearie me, that's not good. You can see that it is having a serious effect on the luminance and the saturation. And the same if I go to a minus. So clarity is good, but you can't have much before it starts degrading the image really. So we'll reset that back to 0. And now I'll take the texture slider and we'll try that. So if we take that up to 100, we'll see now that it does have a slight effect on the contrast, but not much. And it's actually giving us, if you like it, an added sharpening. I think this slider is wonderful. So I can pull that up to there, and we've now got what is, yeah, a nice sharper image. And again, I'll do Control Alt and P, or Command Alt and P if you're on a Mac, and we'll do a before and after. So you can see that looks pretty good. Right, okay, my workflow then. First to go to the detail panel and dial in what I think is an appropriate amount of sharpening. So I just want to get it so that it's just not bringing out or sharpening any of that background detail. And I'll have a little bit of masking just to mask out. So again, I'm holding the Alt key down until I get an amount of sharpening, which is really just around them high contrast edges, and I'll leave it at that. Maybe a tiny bit of luminance sharpening. Okay, and then I'm coming back and then I'm going to try the clarity. Ooh, is that doing any good? No, I don't think so. So I'll reset that, and then my texture slider. Oh yes, that's definitely making a difference. So I'd set that texture slider something like that, and again Control Alt and P, Command Alt and P if you're on a Mac, to do before and after, and a before and after, and I think that makes an amazing difference. Okay, let's just have a quick look at that in practice. We'll look at the skin softening with this image here. So let's zoom in a little bit. I'm just going to click a couple of times to get us close in. Probably even get up to 100%. There we are. We'll work at 100% just for this. Something like that. Okay. Now the first thing we're going to try is I'd like just to sharpen the eyes a little bit. So I'm going to go to my detail panel. And you can see that if I move the amount slider, that's the amount slider at 0. If I move that, I do crispen up and sharpen up them eyes. I think they look a lot better than those lashes. And I may just mask a little bit of it out. And if I've got any noise, which I don't think I've got much, I might just put a little bit of noise reduction in. But there I've got my eyes as I like them. But I've also sharpened up some of the skin tones. So let's go and see if we can deal with that. So if I go back to my basic panel, and then we'll try clarity. Now if I move clarity in the negative direction, you'll see that it does start to do some pretty horrific things. We can get away with a little bit just to soften the skin off a little bit, and that's fine, but it still looks to me a little bit fake, a little bit false. And it is because this is a global adjustment. It's softening the sharpening that I've already put on the eyes. So is there a better way of doing this? Well, there is. Let's just reset clarity, and we'll move the texture slider to the left. And you can see I think that's giving a much better skin softening. I think it's much more organic, and it looks it looks more realistic. I think it's basically a more realistic effect, I think, than the clarity. Okay, but even the texture is still softening the eyes a little bit. So what can we do with that? Well, let's reset everything here, and then we can apply this as a local adjustment. So we'll go over and we'll select the adjustment brush, or you can press the K key. And now we've got a brush, as you can see. And what I normally do with this is, just to give me an idea, is I'll leave the exposure a little bit positive. And then when I start painting, it'll show me that everything that's lighter is going to be affected by what I'm going to do next, which is add the softening. But this just gives me an idea of where I'm going with it. And so I'll just paint in quickly. You'll take a little bit more time than this, but I'll just paint in quickly everywhere that I think is skin tone and wants a little bit of softening. So I'll just hold the space bar and drag down. I'll just quickly do the face and the neck. And not forget the ears. Okay. I think that's pretty much done. But it's quite light. Let's just zoom out a little bit so we can see more of the face. So what I can do now is take off that exposure. So I can take off the exposure. And I know now that if I switch on the mask, this is going to show me exactly where I've painted as well. And I can see now that I've actually missed some pieces. So I can just fill them in. And if I go a bit too far, then up at the top here I've got an erase brush. So I can click on the erase, make my brush a little bit smaller, and then just erase the parts that I don't want. Something like that. Make sure the eye is pretty good with all those luscious lashes. There we go. So we'll go back to add. I'll have a smaller brush and just nip over here like that. There we go. You get the point. Oops, bit there. We'll just do that. You get the point. This is showing us exactly where the softness is happening. So I can take the mask off now by just unticking that mask box. And now the texture will only be applied in the areas that I've designated. So I can pull that back, and now it's not affecting the eyes at all, but it's just affecting the skin tones. And I think I'll pull that down to somewhere like that, and I think that looks pretty good. Let's just zoom out a little bit and see if you can see a before and an after. Yep, I think that something like that I think looks pretty good. Okay, so what about on a landscape image? Well, let's have a look at that, and we'll do that with this image. And we'll just zoom out a little bit. You can see, so if I wanted to make a feature of this front post, say, to just make it a little bit sharper, then what I could do is add some sharpening. So let's just zoom in a little bit. Let's get to 100%, and we'll have a look at the difference. So here again I'll put a bit of sharpening in. So I'm going to the detail panel, and I'm going to move the amount slider, and that's going to give us a little lift in the sharpening. So I'll set it to somewhere like that. I think that looks cool. And now I'm going to go back to the basic panel, and what we'll try is the texture. No, we won't. Let's try the clarity first. We'll try the clarity. Oh, I keep changing my mind. Right, we'll try the clarity first. Right, we'll pull the clarity this way, and you can see that it really hits the contrast. It's making a lot of the image really dark. All those shadows are going pure black, and it's not really that good. Yeah, I'm not so keen on that. Not now I've got texture anyway. So I'll bring that back and we'll try the texture. So if I pull the texture slider to the right, you'll see it does give me a lot more. Let me just move it backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. If you go too far with it, yes, it does take you in the same direction as the clarity slider, but even at 100% it's nowhere near as bad. But I'm coming at somewhere like that, 58, 60%, something like that. I think that looks really good. And we'll just zoom out just to have a quick look at that. Yeah, and I think that looks really cool. Now it's obviously sharpened everything else and texturized everything else, but in this kind of image that probably doesn't matter. So if you wanted to add just a little bit of texture to this focal point at the front, you could do like we did on the sharpening and do it as a local adjustment with the adjustment brush. Well, that's it for this session. I do hope you found it useful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, or even better, leave me a comment in the more area under the video. And please click that subscribe button and help me grow my Photoshop learning community. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.